Congratulations, guys. We got up this morning. My neighbor's dog is going berserk, and I can't really control that. I also won't be able to control if Carson goes berserk, but Carson is my dog, by the way. I'm pretty sure he's good. So I am finally getting around to interviewing a documentary on Netflix called Crip Camp. And at first I didn't want to At first I didn't want to review it because I'm a big disability language person, and just the title that it was called Crip Camp really bothered me. But then I figured out that it was a documentary done in the 70s and 80s, so they weren't exactly woke when it came to disability language. And I gotta tell you, I had to watch it 3 times because there was a scene in the beginning of the movie that I just couldn't get past, when the director of the camp said that, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna dig holes so everybody would trip." I just thought that was such a jerk move, but so I was gonna have a review that said, "Oh yeah, this movie sucks." But then the third time, my mom told me, because she's seen it too, and a couple of my friends have, and they're the ones who encouraged me to review it. My mom was like, "Oh yeah, you gotta watch the whole thing. The whole thing is good. You gotta watch the whole thing." So I did. And if you haven't seen it, I'm pretty sure I'm the last person in the world to have seen it. This isn't really a trend anymore, but I couldn't get past the name when it was new. So this isn't really a trend anymore. But even still, if you haven't seen it, I'm going to give you some spoilers. So it's about 504, and 504 is the law that says basically that you have to have mostly education. That's what they were in college at this point, so they really didn't need to deal with the education part. But the education part of 504 says that disability access must be in every school that's taking federal money. Basically, 504 says that if you're taking federal money, you have to be accessible to all people with disabilities, whether that be a ramp, whether that be all kinds of stuff. That's in 504. Now, 504 was passed by President Richard Nixon after a veto. He passed it due to a lot of demonstrations, but there was this guy, and I forget his name. I think it was like Califano. I forget his name. He's a jerk. He doesn't deserve to be remembered. But basically he said he didn't enforce the law, and then when there were demonstrations about it, he was like, "Okay, we'll be separate but equal." So that was the end of the movie, or the middle of the movie rather. But the beginning of the movie, they had this experience at camp, and they were all talking about their previous experiences with school. Like this one guy, his name was Jimmy. He had spina bifida, and he was allowed to go into public school when he was in first grade on a trial basis. So he had a public school education. There was this girl, her name, oh God, what's her name? I think it was one of the Nancys. There were a few Nancys in this movie. I guess it was a popular name back then. But her mom had to teach her, I forget who it was. Anyway, her mom had to teach her at home because she went to the public school and the principal's like, no, you're a fire hazard. Your wheelchair's a fire hazard. We're not going to take you. So she had to be taught at home until she was about 8 or 9. And they said, oh yeah, we have an opening in the special ed classroom, which was in the basement of the school. And the quote-unquote upstairs kids, as they called them, would come down once a week or so and take the people with disabilities to assembly and like push their chairs and help them eat their lunch and that kind of stuff. But they were all going to this camp. It was called Camp Jened. Jenad, I believe is how they spelled it. And they realized that they didn't need to be sidelined because they were all being sidelined in normal society. This was before my time, most definitely before my time. I am rather spoiled in the fact that I was born after the original passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act, so I really didn't need to fight for my rights very much. There were definitely individual cases where I had to fight for my own rights in my own time, but I'm talking like laws and amendments and stuff, they were already passed. So as a country, I didn't need to worry. I was taken care of. I live in the U.S., by the way, for those of you who don't live in the U.S. But after camp, the movie was about, because the camp part was only about 30 minutes of the movie. So after camp, it was about how all these bonds and all these friendships that were made and how they became disability advocates. So they all moved to California, Berkeley specifically. They all moved to California, and her name was Judy, is the main advocate, like the head of, it's called Disabled in Action, and one of the things that she did was she fought for deinstitutionalization, because in the, I assume that this isn't the case. This isn't the case in the U.S. I don't want to make, or it isn't the case mostly in the U.S. I don't want to make assumptions for other countries. But way back in the 50s and 60s and such, the people with disabilities population was institutionalized. So that's one of the things that Judy and her Disabled in Action group fought for, was the deinstitutionalization of people with disabilities. Because at the camp, they had a couple people that were from an institution, and she realized that they were like shoveling food in their mouth and throwing up because there were so few attendants at the institution. They had like 3 minutes to eat their food before the attendant had to move on to another person. So they were literally shoving food in their mouths and throwing up because they had to eat that fast. They were used to eating that fast. So that's really sad to me. I can't even fathom that. I can't even fathom that. And they said that in the institution, I believe it was called Willowbrook. It was Willowbrook, I think. And they said that they were smeared with their own feces. It was not, I'm pretty sure that's the least of what happened. I'm pretty sure that's what they could put on camera. But That's really sad to me. That made me cry. Yeah, I don't want to talk about that anymore. So, that was one of the things that the Disabled in Action group fought for. But the biggest part was 504. And originally 504 was vetoed by President Nixon because the government supposedly didn't have enough money for the provisions in the bill. But that was protested, so he fought for it. That was protested and fought for, so he passed it, but it wasn't enforced, like I said before. So they had a sit-in, like a 24-day sit-in in San Francisco, and President Carter wouldn't even meet with them because he said it was an illegal protest. But eventually they got what they came for, and thus begins my beautiful rights that I was given. So Mom was right. It was a good movie. I highly encourage you, again, if you're one of the last people in the world to watch it like I was, that you should watch it. I highly encourage that if you consider yourself a disability advocate, that you figure out the history of the people that came before you. And if you like this video, I would like you to subscribe, and I will see you guys later. Bye.